So, what if I told you the key to winning any conflict wasn't about having more firepower, but about something much deeper? We're going to dive into a really fascinating military thesis by Major Jeffrey Sgarlata that argues exactly that. The secret, he says, is all about a profound sociological knowledge of your adversary. You've probably heard this quote before, right? Over 2,000 years ago, the legendary strategist Sun Tzu just laid it all out. And look, he wasn't just talking about knowing how many soldiers the other side has. He was talking about a deep, almost intimate understanding of people, how they think, what drives them, how they see their own world. He knew that real victory isn't won with might alone, it's won with knowledge. Now, to see why this ancient wisdom is more relevant today than ever, we don't need a time machine. Let's just look at a modern and very familiar puzzle: the 2003 invasion of Iraq. I mean, on paper, it looked like a home run. The conventional war, it was over in a matter of weeks, a stunning success. But what came next was chaos. A brutal, violent insurgency erupted, and it completely baffled the most advanced military on the planet. The victory was swift, sure, but the peace, it was totally and completely lost. And here's the thing, this wasn't some isolated incident, a one-off mistake. No, it was the final chapter in a 50-year story of misunderstanding. You can see it right here, this pattern, from backing the wrong people while ignoring huge cultural shifts to completely misreading Saddam's intentions again and again. It was just this long, consistent failure to get what was really happening on the ground. So you have to ask, right? How did this keep happening with stakes this high? Were the strategists just so locked in on the military side of things, on the battlefield math, that they were missing a huge piece of the puzzle? Well, this thesis we're looking at says yes, they absolutely were. And that missing piece? It has a name: sociological intelligence. And this concept, it really flips the script on what we even think intelligence means in a conflict. Okay, so this is not your typical spy stuff, you know? This isn't about counting tanks or listening in on secret phone calls. It's about something way deeper. It's about understanding a society's soul. What are the cracks in their social foundation? What are the old wounds that never healed? What do they truly believe? And what really drives them to act? Essentially, it means you have to stop projecting your own culture and your own logic onto someone else. The goal is to throw your own assumptions out the window and truly get a handle on how they see reality, what motivates them, and what seems perfectly rational to them. So to do that, it's like you're trying to decode a society's basic operating system. You have to ask these big questions. How do they view power? Is justice about an eye for an eye or something else? Who do they trust for the truth? Think about it. Your entire strategy could live or die based on the answers. Get them wrong, and you're toast. Now, you might be thinking this is some brand new radical theory from a university, but no way. In fact, one of the greatest empires in all of history, well, they basically wrote the playbook on this. Let's talk about ancient Rome. Okay, when the Carthaginian general Hannibal invaded Italy, everyone talks about the war elephants. But his real secret weapon, it was sociological intelligence. The guy was a master. He expertly figured out which of Rome's allies were unhappy, what their local beefs were, and he used that to his advantage, promising to free them. One by one, he peeled them away from Rome, who was totally blindsided and suffered these catastrophic defeats. But the Romans learned their lesson. Oh boy, did they learn. A century later, you get Julius Caesar in Gaul, and he perfected this strategy. It was a system. Step 1, figure out who hates whom. Step 2, jump into a local squabble and back one side. Step 3, use the inside info you get to stir up even more trouble for your enemies. And Step 4, build this massive web of alliances where everyone owes you. That made Rome the ultimate power broker. This was the original divide and conquer. Okay, so what crucial lesson does all of this ancient history hold for us today? And more importantly, what happens when this kind of intelligence gets ignored? Well, let's bring it right back to Iraq, because this is where the lesson really hits home. The thesis argues that if you break down the strategic failures, it wasn't a lack of troops or bad supply lines that was the main problem. A whopping 65% of the failure, 65% stemmed from one thing: a profound sociological misunderstanding. A failure to grasp the tribal dynamics, the religious divides, and the cultural realities that were about to explode. So the takeaway here is that this demands a fundamental shift in our thinking. You can't see adversaries as these single unified blocks. They're complex societies. You have to stop mirror imaging, that's assuming they think just like you, and instead you have to build your strategy to fit their culture. And look, this isn't just a theory. The surge in Iraq only really started to work after the strategy shifted to focus on protecting the population and finally understanding its complex social structure. And all of this leaves us with one final, provocative thought to chew on. In our world of drones and satellites and cyber warfare, it's so easy to think about strategy in purely technological terms. But maybe, just maybe, as both ancient Rome and modern Iraq show us, the most powerful weapon in the 21st century isn't a weapon at all. Perhaps it's the ability to truly, deeply understand another culture.